Let's get this thing built using the handy dandy clap technique.
Wow, that was so simple. There might have been a few steps in between that clever transition. I made the move from California to Texas with my 12 chickens, 3 cats, 3 horses, and my dog, which means I had to take down my first chicken setup and rebuild a new one. And if you know me, you know that my animals' safety and happiness is my top priority, so I had to make sure that their new home was as good as I could make it. I was so nervous to get all of my animals through the move and take a leap of faith into this new chapter, but I learned a lot from building their first setup all by myself, so it was time to take what I learned and create something even better than their last one. And this time I had helping hands, which made a world of difference. This is my cross-country chicken setup rebuild. I'm gonna take you through all of it, but before we really get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with a friend, and enjoy. So to fill you in, we have to hop back to a couple months before my move, where we had to take down this horse structure that my dad and I had built a couple seasons ago, but my horses weren't using anymore. I wanted to reuse all of the lumber that I could, and there was actually a lot more lumber on this on the sides that I just forgot to record before we started taking it apart. What I was really after with this is these large posts and also the 12-foot corrugated roofing. I knew that would be really beneficial and valuable for my new chicken setup that I designed based on what I was going to be able to salvage. I actually ended up not having to buy any extra lumber besides the plywood that I needed to actually make the sides of their coop. So taking the time to do this was 100% worth it. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Why would I get baby chicks before I move? I get where you're coming from, but there is a method to my madness. Okay, long story short, I did not have enough hens for my rooster Ari, and it was getting dangerous for my existing hens to be around him. So I decided that if I adopted baby chicks about 2 months before my move, the chicks would be at a perfect age to move them because they would not need a heat lamp for the drive, and they'd be ready to integrate pretty much right when we got there. And then they'd be reaching full maturity within a few months after that, rather than starting the process once I got there and built and all set up and extending the amount of time that my current hens had to be around my rooster with no other hens. So I did what any responsible chicken mother would do, and I adopted these very cute, adorable baby chicks. And side note, yes, I do plan to rescue hens someday, but I feel I need to get a totally balanced flock and setup before I bring hens who need extra rehabilitation and care into the equation. Now we're just a day out from the move, and it was time to take down my old chicken setup, which I put off doing because right when I started taking it down, it would compromise the security of it, and I knew that the chickens would have to move out and basically be living in my laundry room. So we took that down as fast as possible, but I had built it so well that it was actually very hard to take down. Now there's 2 reasons I was taking it down. A, I was a renter, so I had to take it down, and B, I was trying to salvage as many materials as possible, like the corrugated roofing and some of the lumber and the hardware cloth. We were working as fast as possible to get this down, but what you don't see that I forgot to film is a bunch of rain that was happening intermittently throughout the entire day. We actually ended up being in a flood watch, and we were flooded into the property, so we had to delay our move by a day anyways. So this is where we got on the first day, and then it was time to tuck the chickens into the laundry room and get them safe and secure before nightfall. They were all being such good sports about it. Of course, I spent time cuddling each and every one of them to make sure that they were feeling okay, and you can see that red light through the window. My baby chicks, or my younger chicks, were still inside in their brooder at that time, so it was a little easier to manage. I was super paranoid about predators being able to get into this space because it's definitely not as secure as the setup I built, so I barricaded it with like whatever I could find. I'm not kidding when I say I have bobcats, coyotes, raccoons, all of it just coming right up to the house. So I think the extra precaution was definitely necessary. And here they are, so sweet. I checked on them multiple times throughout the night just to make sure everybody was safe and sound and doing okay. We got started as early as possible the next day. It felt like it was kind of never ending, but we got there eventually. And of course, it was pouring down rain throughout the day, so we were still fighting with that. But once we got it all down, it was time to figure figure out what was coming, what we needed to clean up, and get on the road as soon as possible. I did my best to make all the animals as comfortable as possible because I knew this was going to be quite a long trip for them and a long time that they were spending in cages. I checked on them as much as possible to make sure everybody was doing okay. I had the big chickens in the U-Haul, and then I had the younger chicks with me in my car, also with my 3 cats and my 14-year-old dog. And then finally, after what felt like an eternity later for everyone, we made it to Texas. The chickens were so happy to stretch their wings, frolic around in the grass, and get to know their new yard that actually had a lot more grass and usable space than the last area that they were in, so it was quite exciting to watch them see that their world was opening up, especially after getting them through that really long move. But we were far from being able to celebrate because we still had a whole chicken setup to build, and they would be still sleeping in their cages with supervised outdoor time until all of it was set up. So there was much to do, and I gave myself about 2 hours to relax and frolic with them before we got to work. Look at all this gorgeous salvaged lumber. All of this was packed in the U-Haul. I actually made cuts to my personal belongings because I needed to take all of this with me. All that corrugated roofing, chef's kiss. I picked out the size and the area that their setup was going to be in, partially based on what was allowed by zoning and also what my lumber and materials were going to allow me to build. And just like how the last setup began, I started digging. Since I did double my flock size, I wanted this setup to be sizably bigger, and it should be noted that I also made sure I am still within the city ordinances as to how many chickens I am allowed to keep and that I was allowed to have a rooster. I did my best to record things as I went, but everything was so messy and disorganized and my brain was absolute mush by this point, so I don't have all the specifics on step by step how I built this structure, but if you guys have questions, feel free to drop a comment and I can clarify whatever you want to know about it. These clips are time hopping a bit, so at this point we are already probably on, gosh, I think it was like day 4 or 5. I was hoping to get this built within a week. It ended up taking, I think, closer to 2 weeks. Still pretty fast considering what we ended up putting together. And even though you see me working a lot alone in these clips, I did have helping hands throughout this process, unlike my last setup that I built that I did totally by myself. I have no idea what day it is or how long I've been working on this. Once again, I drastically underestimated the amount of work this was gonna be. I'm just building out the nest box because that's more or less a one-person job, and then I can build up the rest of the wall, so then we can put the roof of the coop on tomorrow, hopefully. My brain hurts. Do you like it? What do you think, Miss Coda? What do you think? This is gonna be your new home. There is finally a break in the rainy, cloudy, super cold weather. Thank goodness. You're so beautiful. Does the sun feel good? It works. I am hoping to get the chickens sleeping in the coop tonight. It's pretty much done. I just have to make a hinge door for their nest boxes. The most dreaded part, I have to make this big gate. I freaking love this little hut. Could be putting them like straight. That would definitely look better aesthetically, and that's why I end up with like a really makeshift looking structure. Okay, the chickens are not moving in tonight because I did not finish the gate, the door to the coop, but I did finish my nest box hinge door, which was stupidly time consuming and hard for me to do. Really hoping that they're going to be moved in by tomorrow at the latest. I had a dream that I was carrying Coda around. It was just like a normal dream, but I was carrying Coda in the dream the whole time, and she was being really sweet. Yesterday, my rooster Ari spotted a hawk that was kind of stalking them in the trees that I did not see. I looked and I didn't see anything. And then it kind of swooped around. So we want to get them in this enclosure ASAP. Do you like it? They're pretty cozy, huh? Yeah. This is your sleeping spot. You like it? You like it? You think it's good? What do you think? What? What do you think, Sam? What do you think about it? You like the top bar? You like the top one? Hi, Coda. Yes, I see you. Yes, I see you. I really thought I was about to finish, but of course I did not construct the door correctly so it doesn't fit in. Things like this are so frustrating. Okay, all right, well that's it for tonight. Do more tomorrow. Okay, we're making pretty good progress today. We got all the beams up for the corrugated roofing. We still have to attach the roofing door attached. I had to cut it. It looks crazy, but it fits. They should actually be able to sleep in here tonight. I was so excited when I saw the little ones had gotten up to the roost bars all by themselves. They're so cute. But the last thing to do before this was secure enough for them to sleep in was to install the automatic door, which I had lost the screws for. So I had to make a quick trip to the hardware store to get those specialty screws. Everybody made it through their first night in the new coop, and they were getting along in the morning. This was the little young ones and the adult chickens' first time sleeping together, although they've spent a lot of supervised time together leading up to this night. So everything went smoothly as planned and anticipated. I think I've had this underlying current of just stress and anxiety to get through the move and to get everything set up so I can start working and just get through this transition. But, you know, you only build something like this every so often, and this is going to be the home to my chickens, and I'm getting so much special time with family and loved ones. It's December. I just want to kind of relax a little bit. Even though there is much to do, I want to enjoy today and enjoy the process a bit more. I think now that the chickens are out of the cages and they do have their coop and they'll definitely have their run today, I think that's going to make it a little bit easier to trust the timeline a little bit more. So that's my intention for today. I'm actually slightly scared of heights, and I wasn't sure how sturdy the roof is, but it feels sturdy as long as I walk on the beams. What I was doing here, well, here I was drinking coffee, but now here I was painting an exterior paint on the plywood just to protect it a bit more, and I did go in and put corrugated roofing that I had left over on top of the Coop plywood as well to give it that extra layer of protection. I might shingle the roof at some point and maybe add another layer of plywood, but for now this is what we're doing, and I was really happy with how it turned out. The young girls were being so considerate, making sure that they were present in the building process, showing up in whatever way they could think of to help. In this instance, they were monitoring the installation of the hardware cloth on the ground and also providing warmth from their body heat. And honestly, who doesn't love being covered and surrounded by chickens when you're working? While that was going on, I started attaching the corrugated roofing. For this, I just drill a hole and then hammer in the roofing nails and basically do that times a cajillion. But these roofing panels are not going anywhere. Look at how beautiful they are. Speaking of beautiful, look at this hardware cloth covering the entire ground of the run. This is an area that I like to take full precaution on, and I believe that it is worth the time and investment that it takes to do this because it ensures that no predators are going to be able to access your chickens through the bottom of the run. I'm huge on safety, and if you want to know more about how I predator proofed my last structure because I was fighting against so many predators, you can check that out. I'll link it at the end. I also have a tour of this finished setup that points out some safety features along the way too if you want to check that out. After the hardware cloth was down, I used these ground stakes and hammered them in, which connected the hardware cloth panels, and it makes sure that no predator is going to be able to lift up any part of the hardware cloth from underneath the ground. It also helps keep it nice and flush to the ground so the mulch and things that I put over it don't sort of get jammed underneath and start raising it up over time. I use organic non-dyed mulch. It's worked really well for me. If you do go the mulch route, just make sure that you're choosing a wood that is not toxic to your chickens and one that is not dyed. My chickens are so smart, and they caught on to the nighttime routine of getting themselves in the coop very quickly. I did give them a little bit of assistance getting on the roosting bars because they're my babies, and also the young ones, it's still very new to them to roost, and I just want them to form the habit of going here to roost at night because that's how I have it set up. There's Miss Coda, and then, oh, there goes Junie. And then little Pepper gets a hitch up to the roosting bars. Look how good they are. That was a full day's work, and it was time to call it a night. Things were starting to feel almost done. I had the run pretty much complete, and I had added this aerial netting and extended this turnout area for them that they can go in when I'm home and supervising. So now it was just down to the last little installation and details to finish it all up. Here I was installing a run chicken feeder, which I actually ended up returning because I was super unhappy with the amount of food spillage and a couple other things. I made a full review video about it. If you're curious about the run chicken feeder, I would recommend watching it before you purchase it. For their watering system, I decided just to drill holes into this super cute pink bucket and attach little water attachments. I don't know what they're called. You can get them anywhere. They're really cheap. It was so much cheaper than buying the waterer that I had bought online with my last setup, and it essentially was basically just a rectangular bucket, so I figured why not cut cost and do it this way. Look at those fluffy butts. Okay, anyway, now it was time to loop back to install different feeders. I ended up just using these troughs from Little Giant. They've worked really well for me. I have no complaints about them. Super simple and super cute pops of color. This is the part of the build where things start getting fun because you're kind of done with things and it's just the last finishing touches. I made a Tractor Supply run with my cute mom, and she picked out some chicken boots because as a chicken grandmother of 12, you kind of have to get chicken boots so you can make sure that your grandkids know you love them. My yard was a mess. My house was a mess. I still hadn't unpacked, but golly, look how happy my chickens look. At this point, everything was more or less done. There were just a few things that I had to do, like painting the inside of the coop plywood, which I forgot to record, adding the rest of the mulch. Oh, by the way, if you want to watch how I integrated my young ones with my established flock, I made a series about that, and it also talks about how I get such cuddly chickens because I actually get asked that a lot. It's called the mama hen method. So if that sounds helpful and interesting to you, be sure to check that out on my channel when you get the chance. I went back to enforce the hinge doors where I can check the eggs from and where you can fill the food and water from outside the coop whenever I have a pet sitter. That just makes it so much easier. Mr. Ari was not quite sure what to think about it, but I was very pleased with the final result. Also, here's the egg situation. Very happy with that. I went back to install the corrugated roofing and everybody really started to feel settled in. This was such a long process and it was not easy by any means, but at the end it was so rewarding and I feel like I could really tell that my chickens feel safe and were really happy in their new home. Not only was it a lot for me, but it was a lot for them. Their whole world changed. They went through a huge transition of being in the cages, getting a whole new home, integrating as a flock, but I am so proud of them for being so brave and beautiful and magnificent and trusting me every step along the way as I ushered us all through this transition. And if you're curious, this is how much lumber was left over from that big pile that we started with. It's now been 3 months since we finished their setup and I love it more every single day. Every little piece, choice, detail, quirky feature reminds me of a special moment throughout the process. I love that it's a one-of-a-kind setup, totally unique to me with no other chicken setup exactly like it. It keeps my beloved chicken children totally safe and honors what they need to fully thrive and express themselves as the beautiful chickens that they came here to be. Their flock dynamic continues to unfold as they settle in and it's absolutely fascinating to watch. I can tell that they really love being here and spending their days in it, which is so important to me to give them the happiest life possible. Big moves are scary, but it turned out better than I imagined. In some ways, it was sad to let go of my last setup because I put so much time, love, and work into it, and I had to move a lot sooner than I anticipated when I built it. But now that I have this one, I look around and see how it all worked out. Now I know that no matter where I go, as long as I'm with my animals, I'll always create something safe, magical, and special, and it will actually get better every time. But I think I'm gonna stick around here for a while longer. There's really nothing quite like being surrounded by your chickens and feeling the bond that just keeps getting deeper the more you grow through together. My heart knew what it was doing when it followed those tiny cheeps that would change my life. Now, believe it or not, I already have plans for expanding this setup and making it even better than it already is. So be sure to like and subscribe so you can be a part of this journey as it unfolds. Also, make sure to leave a comment and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Madeline, this is Earthlings Uncaged, and I'm passionate about keeping animals safe and happy. Because you are my babies. My children. Back, 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 back. Back, 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 back. You want a little leaf? Oh, that's nice. That's nice. You want some? That's nice. Oh, took it from me. Want this? Mwah, mwah. I love you.